great to be here with His Worship the Mayor Wayne Brown, and can I say thank you to everyone who's come along. It's a great day for Auckland. We're here today to announce that the government is taking decisive action to restore democratic accountability to transport decision making in Auckland. We recognise that Aucklanders have become increasingly frustrated with how transport decisions are made and how little their views are taken into account. In fact, Auckland Transport's recent annual report highlighted that only 29% of Aucklanders feel the organisation listens and responds to their needs. This is simply not good enough. To address these concerns, the government will implement significant reforms to ensure that transport policies in Auckland reflect the needs and wishes of its residents. First, we will return regional transport policy and planning to Auckland Council. This means that transport policy and planning functions will move from Auckland Transport back to the Council, aligning with how other regional councils operate across New Zealand. Second, we'll establish a new Auckland Regional Transport Committee. This statutory committee will develop a 30-year integrated transport plan for Auckland to be agreed on by Cabinet and by Auckland Council. This will ensure long-term strategic alignment between local and central government. Third, we're designating Auckland Council as the road controlling authority. Decision-making will be shared between the governing body and local boards, giving power to local communities. Fourth, we'll empower Auckland Council to have control over its Transport Council-controlled organisation. The Council will retain a Transport CCO focused solely on delivering transport projects and services, and will have 6 months once legislation is passed to determine its specific functions. The existing transport governance model in Auckland is falling short of meeting the expectations of the government, Auckland Council and, more importantly, Aucklanders themselves. By returning decision-making power to elected representatives, we're enabling Aucklanders to directly influence the transport policies that affect their daily lives. Under these reforms, Auckland's elected representatives will be responsible for key transport policy decisions such as approving the Regional Land Transport Plan and the Regional Public Transport Plan. If Aucklanders feel the transport system isn't working for them or disagree with the decisions made by their elected members, they can hold them accountable at the ballot box. Additionally, the government will devolve specific transport functions to local boards. This will give communities more say over transport issues such as parking policies, setting of speed limits, approval of interventions on roads like cycleways and pedestrian crossings. This change ensures that transport policies have democratic legitimacy and accountability, something that has been sorely lacking. The establishment of the Auckland Regional Transport Committee will further enhance strategic planning. The committee will develop a 30-year integrated transport plan considering the city's needs across roads, rail, public transport and freight. Long-term alignment between local and central government is critical to Auckland and New Zealand's success. The last national government started this work with the Auckland Transport Alignment Project, and now we will formalise it in legislation. At this point, I'd like to invite Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown to share his thoughts on these important reforms.
Thank you, Minister. Auckland has elected me to take back control of Auckland Transport, and I'm fulfilling that promise with a good deal of help from the Coalition and Minister Brown. These changes will restore local democracy to Auckland by, number one, removing AT's independence, and two, giving back control to elected members. Let me be clear, the existing model is broken, but it's not the fault of individuals. The problem is a badly designed system and a legal framework that is not fit for purpose. I acknowledge the hard-working bus drivers, train and ferry crews who have been let down by the system too. We can now begin transitioning Auckland Transport to a CCO focused on delivering better transport for Aucklanders with direction from elected members. The new Auckland Regional Transport Committee will also mean a genuine partnership with central government to ensure we are in lockstep when it comes to developing an integrated transport plan, something I also promised. Both Government and Council fund transport, and we will continue working together to get a better result. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. In closing, these reforms are about putting Aucklanders back in the heart of transport decision-making, restoring democratic accountability and ensuring we deliver the world-class transport system that Aucklanders deserve. thank you once again for being here today, and we're happy to take questions.
Are you anticipating any staff cuts during the transition?
Look, ultimately, this is about the policy decisions today. Questions in regards to the transition are best probably answered by the Mayor. But what we're announcing here is how we're going to be putting democratic accountability back into the heart of transport decisions here in Auckland, and ensuring that Aucklanders have control over what happens in their city. That's the intent. Legislation will then need to be drafted, brought to Parliament next year, go through a select committee process, and then implemented following that. So there's still some ways to go. But I'm not sure if you want to talk to that any further, Wayne.
Not especially, I think you summed it up very well, but it's about democratic responsibility, strategic alliance and efficiency. And efficiency, we're looking for that everywhere. You know that I stand for better, cheaper, faster and everything.
Mayor, as you said, this is something you've campaigned on for a long time. How does it feel to actually get to this point?
Well, I'm quite satisfied, but I mean, it's still a long way to go. Most of my 5 policies are still good policies. They're still the ones that I'm working on, and they've all made progress, and this is significant progress on that one, but it still has to be implemented and locked in. Thank you.
How's that going to work at the local board level? Are local boards going to be allowed to set speed limits? And if so, can they introduce 30-kilometre speed limits which would reverse?
Look, ultimately they'll have to work within the setting of speed limit rule, which the government has set. But the issue here is at the moment when it comes to these decisions, Auckland Transport makes these decisions for the city, and local communities are unable to make these decisions in their communities. That setting of speed limit rule is now in effect. It has a range of flexibilities within it around how different councils can utilise that in their communities. What we're saying here is that some decisions that currently are made by Auckland Transport will be devolved down to local boards so that local communities can hold the local board and local representatives to account for those decisions.
Can local boards decide to install raised pedestrian crossings?
Well, look, that's one of the things that road controlling authorities can do. I can tell you what, it's not going to be funded by the taxpayer. We've made that very clear in the government policy statement on transport, and that's been given effect to in the National Land Transport Program. I can tell you under this government there'll be no co-funding from the government for those things. If the council and local boards want to spend money on those types of things which frustrate motorists, they will be held accountable by the people in their communities.
Sorry, to go back to the local board issue, who is going to fund these projects that the local boards decide to do? Will they instruct Auckland Transport to undertake them, or will they have funding of their own from state?
Well, ultimately they already have a small capital allowance which is set through the Regional Land Transport plan, which they get provided as part of that. But I guess the key issue here, though, is in terms of the decisions they make, they will be democratically accountable for those decisions because they were making those decisions, and where they are delivering them, or the delivery agents who are delivering it on their behalf, they will be ultimately accountable for those to the people who vote for them.
But they can do that now, so what's different under this model?
Well, we're delegating certain road, like at the moment, Auckland Transport is the road controlling authority. So anything that happens on the road corridor has to be made, those decisions have to be made by Auckland Transport. So yes, local boards can advocate for things, they can ask for things, they're not the decision-making body. Auckland Transport is. In a number of instances, what we're saying on local streets in their communities, they will become the decision-making body on those decisions.
And you said that the Auckland Council will continue to have a transport CCO.
Yes.
It has 6 months to make a decision on what it will do. What do you imagine it will do? What do you expect its responsibilities will be?
Well, its focus is going to be around actually delivering the infrastructure and the services that are needed. What we're taking away is the issues around policy and planning and strategy, and that's where I think many of those decisions have been frustrating Aucklanders, where they see an agency not reflecting their views. And you only have to go as far as their annual report, which shows that only 29% of Aucklanders actually think they listen to Aucklanders. And by providing those decisions to elected members to make those decisions, Aucklanders will be able to hold their elected members to account to ensure they are reflecting the views of Aucklanders.
And so the elected members will make decisions and direct that new CCO?
Correct.
And so does that new CCO already have a name? Is it
Well, no, it'll be Auckland, no, so it'll be Auckland Transport will continue under this deal. It will continue, but it will be surgically changed in terms of significant parts of it will be removed, and it will be it will have a very clear mandate provided by the governing body, which will determine what its specific functions are that it will deliver upon.
And with 6 months to decide on its statutory functions, what about the rest of the plan proposed here? When will that go into effect?
So just to be really clear on the timeline. So we're announcing the policy decisions that Cabinet has made. That will then go into legislation, be drafted, taken to Parliament, go through a select committee process. Once that legislation is passed, at that point the 6-month period starts for the implementation.
And is that the implementation also for the committee that's proposed here?
Yes, so the statutory committee will be set up once the legislation is put into place.
And do you have any concerns that the legislation will not pass, that there'll be some
Well,
degree of not support?
Well, I can tell you what, the coalition government and the Cabinet has agreed, we are united in our view that change is needed in Auckland to deliver democratic accountability for decision making around transport, and we are going to deliver upon that.
You were originally a little bit unsure about this months back. What changed your mind? How did you get onto this?
Oh, look, I actually negotiate things with my coalition parties and with the mayor. I don't negotiate things in the media. And so we've been discussing this for some time and working this through, getting good advice from both the Council and from the Ministry of Transport. Cabinet now made some decisions, and here we are today announcing it and delivering upon it. We're fixing Auckland Transport.
When did you advise Auckland Transport on the changes?
I met with the CE and spoke to the Chair earlier today.
So that's the only thing about.
Yeah, well, Cabinet made decisions yesterday, and we're announcing them today.
So is Cabinet going to have to sign up on the 30-year integrated plan?
Correct. So the 30-year...
Why is that? Because no, Cabinet doesn't sign up on any other regional main transport plan.
So no, we won't be... So there's two different things here. One is a 30-year, effectively the Auckland Transport Alignment Project, but it's being legislated as an integrated transport plan. So the last national government put in place the Auckland Transport Alignment Project, which is about saying actually Auckland is critically important to New Zealand's economic outcomes, and we need to have far greater alignment between Auckland Council and the government. Cabinet signed off on ATAP when we were last in government. Cabinet will sign off on the integrated transport plan. But when it comes to the 10-year regional land transport plan, that is the council's document, and the council will approve the RLTP.
When do you think the 30-year plan might be ready by? So you're talking about the legislation next year. When do you envisage the earliest you might be able to come up with?
Well, that will be determined once the legislation is put in place. But ultimately, my intention is to have that done and dusted to feed into GPS 27 and the National Land Transport Program from 27 to 2030. That's the critical timeline here, is to get this legislation changed, and then to put in place an integrated transport plan which will feed into the National Land Transport Plan for 2027 to 2030.
What was the response from Auckland Transport when you met with them this morning?
Oh, look, I don't go into conversations. Ultimately, I was informing them around the policy decisions. I think it was the right thing to do to inform them about what decisions Cabinet has agreed to ahead of announcing that publicly.
For the Mayor, how do you feel this is going to impact your average Aucklander who gets a bus or a train or drives a car?
Just a bit louder.
Come this way, Wayne.
How do you feel this change is going to impact your average Aucklander who catches a bus or a train or drives a car?
I think it'll be quite positive. I mean, one of the things that will absolutely remain with AT is passenger transport delivery, but they'll be focusing on it rather than just a plethora of other things which they perhaps the council should be doing. Delivery is one of the most important things for them, and I think that it will only be better. In fact, there's not much room to get worse, to be honest. But
you said in the past that you wanted to get Wellington out of Auckland. Is this inviting them back in?
No. The thing is that transport is funded in most cases jointly by the council and by the government. So we've now got the government via the Minister of Auckland sitting down and discussing things here with us. So in fact, it is doing what I want to do, and the government is recognising that most of their voters are here as well. So it's a very sensible thing, and I've enjoyed working with the Minister. because this is something that we've both been working for. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, really. This has been something that I've laid out for 2 years, and it's a step along a journey to provide better services to Aucklanders that reflect better what the Aucklanders want.
You talk about how AT is a broken system. Is this the fix that you were hoping for?
Pretty much. I think we've got quite a bit to work through here, but to have a AT focusing on running the buses and doing and the trains and doing the ferries is exactly what they should be doing. And we don't ask bus companies to design the system in which they work. They just deliver the buses. And so I think this is a very sensible result, and it's along the lines of what I've been thinking of for 3 or 4 years now.
Councillors elected members already have so much to understand, to do, to work through. Do you feel confident that they have capacity to understand all of the minutiae that they'll be taking on from Auckland Transport's policy role?
Well, councillors are elected to run a multi-billion-dollar activity anyhow, and if we can run all the parks and reserves and planning and building consent, this is just yet another bit where we will actually be making decisions about how AT deliver those services, whereas at the moment they've been making decisions which have often not been what we want. And the fact that, as the Minister said, that only 29% of Aucklanders felt they were listening, that actually was a significant lift over what it was before. It was only down 22%, and the chairman told me it was a 20% rise. It's still very low. I mean, most businesses look for 80% and are upset if they only get 75%. There's a lot of room for Aucklanders to be more engaged, and that's where the democratic accountability comes. If the public don't think that the councillors are listening to them, they can do something about it. You can't do much about the board.
What are the costs associated with this?
Sorry?
What are the costs associated with a transition like this? Are you expecting a cost to efficiencies?
Well, I think, first of all, you've got to get what do you want to do right. And if you do the right thing, it inevitably is cheaper. But I haven't gone into that. We just want to have, what is the right thing to do? What is the system that will benefit Aucklanders so that Aucklanders hear and feel that they are part of what is a very essential part of what Auckland Council deliver, and what is a very large part of what both the government and Auckland spend in our region. We want to have control and understanding of that. It's got to be with somebody. It should be with the people who are elected. That's how governments work in the Western world. Yes.
What are some of the practical implications of Auckland Council being designated the road controlling authority?
Well, the first thing is it'll be like every other council in the country that do actually control our roads. The first thing will be that all those people who send me emails every day about the things that aren't happy about it, I'll be able to do something about them. The public think that I am in complete control now, and the Minister has thankfully helped that to happen. If it doesn't work, I will be responsible, and I'll happily be responsible for things which I have had a say in.
Well, for example, will Council now be responsible for parking issues that have arisen, like parking CBD?
Well, I think that's one of the areas that the Minister has suggested we should have local board input in. The overall policy with speed and things like that, the government still has a Minister of Transport, but a lot of our local boards are very, very different from each other. Rodney is an area with a huge number of unsealed roads. The city has a problem with multiple demands on parking. It makes no sense that we have decision making at the centre. The people in Rodney will probably come up with quite different solutions to the people in the heart of the city, and yet they will be tuned to the people that they represent. So I think that one size fits all and everything is wrong, because we don't have one size fits all of a city. The city is enormously different.
The parking arrangements in the central city, which Auckland Transport began work on, there was pushback on that. That's the sort of issue now that will be determined by the council or the local board.
I think a council will probably determine an overall strategy, but the localised thing of where these things happen and what the actual localised decisions are, I think the local boards will enjoy having a bit more say, to be quite honest.
But that's it. But that is an example of an issue which currently would be determined by Auckland Transport and will be shifted to Auckland Council.
The City of Auckland is not so massive that people don't venture out of their local board area. Are you not concerned that there's going to be potentially dangerous or problematic inconsistencies between regions? I mean, Rodney still travels to Auckland Central, people in Auckland Central still travel to Rodney. There's no reason why they shouldn't have consistent cycleways or parking fees or...
I think the key thing we're saying here is that actually we want to have democratic accountability for these decisions, and different parts of Auckland are different, and their views and their concerns are different from other parts. And so those
have a democratic accountability within a unified plan.
So there'll be so I guess the key thing is here there'll be some issues which will require a regional approach, and there'll be some issues which will require a local approach, and that will be some of that will be determined as part of the bill when it comes in, and then there'll obviously be a select committee process where some of those issues will be determined. So, for example, a freight strategy and a freight corridors across Auckland are critically important to the efficient movement of freight. So is public transport corridors to efficient movement of people. Those clearly have a regional impact and a regional benefit. But whether or not the car parks outside the local dairy should be removed or should stay, that's clearly a local impact, and we want to make sure local boards are able to make some of those decisions. So those are the types of decisions that we want to empower local boards to be able to make. However, there'll be work that needs to be dealt with as part of the drafting process of the bill and the select committee process to make sure we get that right. And so the views of Aucklanders will certainly be taken into account as we work that through. But the principle here, those decisions which were previously made by Auckland Transport will now be made by democratically elected local members. And if the public don't like what they're deciding, they can vote them out.
Will they need additional training, support, expertise to be able to make those decisions?
Well, I just make this point. People put their names forward because they think they've got something to offer their city and their community. No, and I completely reject that. I just think if people put themselves forward because they've got a view and they've got an agenda and they've got something they want to do and give back to their community, and if they think they've got something to offer, I encourage them to put their names forward and to be able to implement what they believe in. At the moment, they can't, and they get frustrated. This empowers them to be able to have their say, and importantly, it empowers the people who put them there to get rid of them if they're not happy with what they're doing.
Are you worried about the effect that might have on the fortunes of political cycles and changes all the time? So with your government cancelling a number of projects under the last government, could this just open up a whole lot of confusion and fragmentation for Auckland?
No, I think I think actually one of the key things here in actually having a regional land transport plan, an integrated transport plan, is actually taking a 30-year view around what's required for Auckland. ATAP was a great project to do that, and it helps to actually elevate some of those long-term strategic issues which are needed. And also, we've been very clear in the decision making. It'll be a committee which will have joint appointments from government and from the council, and it will have an independent chairperson with a casting vote to resolve issues where there cannot be agreement. And the intent there is to actually have that longer term planning, which is really, really needed for our bigger city. I think we've got time for one more question.
Up until this legislation passes, what sort of decisions can Auckland Transport be making?
Well, until the legislation changes, ultimately the powers remain as they stand, with the Mayor and the Council appointing the board, holding them to account, and delivering upon that. But that's why we have made these decisions quickly. We're now moving towards legislating, and then we'll move into implementation as quickly as we can.
I think that in the meantime they'll be making those decisions in the light of what has been agreed by Cabinet, so that even the same people will be making decisions from a different viewpoint all of a sudden. And I think they know it's coming, and that will have an immediate difference straight away. They are being forced to think about a new regime which is on its way.
Hey, well, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Cheers.